As a fragile 14-day ceasefire descends on the Strait of Hormuz, Africa's financial architecture is moving to secure its future. The Afrexim Export-Import Bank, African Export-Import Bank, Afrexim, has officially approved a massive $10 billion Gulf Crisis Response Program, GCRP, a move that came just hours before the truce was announced. This is more than just an emergency fund. It is a strategic maneuver to decouple African and Caribbean economies from global energy shocks. With oil prices plummeting 13% overnight and the Hormuz Shiver beginning to thaw, we ask, is this $10 billion a war chest for a conflict that is ending, or a peace bridge to a more resilient Africa? And as the warring parties head to the negotiating table this Friday, who truly holds the upper hand? To unpack this, I'm joined by Cheta, Nwanze, lead partner, SBM Intelligence, and Dr. Femi Egbeshola, President, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, ASBON. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let me begin with you, Dr. Egbeshola. The African Export-Import Bank, that's Afrexim, has approved a $10 billion facility to cushion the economic impact of the ongoing Iran war on African and Caribbean economies. Can we break this down to how comprehensive the package is and what exactly we should be expecting as a result of this? Doctor, I can't hear you. Can you please unmute?
Oh, okay. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
All right. I said I would like to start by commending Afrexim for this very bold and immediate step that they have taken to salvage economies, particularly in Africa and in the Caribbean. And of course, this window will now make it possible for us to have short-term foreign exchange for liquidity purposes. You know, most of our currencies in the African countries now under pressure, meaning that our exchange rate is going higher. This is going to really be a big relief in that regard. At the same time, too, it will also help to stabilize the supply chain pressures that we have at the moment. We should begin to see lower prices of fuel. And because this is also going to open the window for other imports that are available here, particularly when it comes to fuel and pharmaceutical, agriculture, and even mineral resources. This is going to be a big boost. SMEs are also going to benefit maximally because Afrexim is also talking with some banks, partner banks, that will help to also do some financing to SMEs and corporates who are also partners with Afrexim. Also for SMEs too, we will be able to plug in as vendors or in their supply chain of bigger corporations and be able to get some of the windfall of this funding that is coming now. But all of this is really dependent on the preparedness of the different nations, particularly here in Nigeria. Now we need to begin to talk about how prepared we have for this facility, how well we can utilize this facility, and that is where we can begin to get the gains. If these gains come to be, I'm seeing a lot of improvements in the long term. And I also feel that this is going to help us become more proactive in future rather than being reactive. We need to begin to prepare our supply chains, our manufacturing sector, our energy sector, so that when things like this happen, we will not be so affected as we are at the moment.
All right, let me come to you now, Mr. Nwanze. First, I'd like you to react to that, your initial reaction, and also I'd like you to look at how countries in the region are affected by this war. Though we know it's disproportionate, but I think it's okay for us to see the degree of impact it's having on some nations, and why we see that some of these nations seem to be, insulated.
So thank you. Basically, I would say that it's a little too late. And forgive me for being so cynical, the war has been going on for 6 weeks, and it took such a long time.
Maybe they were monitoring impact. You never can tell. They were monitoring the impact, just like the federal government here in Nigeria said it was also monitoring the impact.
No, I think it was more a case of that they were trying to gather funds, but that's me being cynical. Basically, it's something, though not much. I mean, there are 54 countries in Africa, 16 in the Caribbean. And then you're announcing $10 billion for a once-in-a-generation event that has been responsible for at least a 13% all-round increase in energy prices. And note that the global economy runs on energy, so this affects everything. Having said that, I think that a recalibration away from global supply chains to build more resilient internal silos is in order. We cannot leave global supply chains completely. That would be a fool's errand. But this resilience is a very key thing that we need to look at building within African economies. And then we also need to find ways to integrate African economies better, so that we have a self-sustaining ecosystem that is built better to withstand against external shocks. The fact that basically the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, threats to the Suez Canal, basically caused us to melt down, that says a lot. Think about it this way. Manufactured goods coming from the Far East towards Lagos or Accra suddenly got a 14 to 15 day buffer on top because of the fact that they could no longer transit through the Red Sea. Why don't we think of putting some of the manufacturing capacity in our region so that if something like this happens, and there's no telling, now we are no longer in a unipolar world, we are now in a multipolar world, and some of those poles may make mistakes at some point. So the key thing we should be focusing on as a continent, as a region, is to find a way to make ourselves one of the poles, so that when things happen that affect other poles that are beyond our control, the US and Israel attacking Iran was something that we could not have stopped, no matter how hard we tried. But we ended up being affected by what they did. So we need to figure out a way to make ourselves a center so that when things like this happen, we will not be unduly affected.
Well, I think beyond, helping countries navigate current challenges, one of the things they're also looking at is, beg your pardon, building stronger, more resilient economies for the future, with emphasis on interventions that will transform the structure of these economies. Since you've already started on that trajectory, Mr. Nwanze, I'd like you to just take it up from there in about 30 seconds.
Well, so basically, M&E is a key part of it. You don't just throw money at the problem and expect people to do the right thing. We have a track record, unfortunately, and Nigeria being a very good example of taking such monies and using it for politics or using it for short-term things. What we should be looking at is building long-term resilience, and we need to do that very, very urgently. This has shown that without the shadow of a doubt. So the Afreximbank and other such multilaterals should be investing a lot of M&E so that they'll be able to hold governments that they are helping to account. This is what we want you to use this money for. You are not using it for. Because there will be another global shock. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when it happens, we need to be ready.
All right, Doctor, this is coming hours before the warring parties reach the 2-week ceasefire. I mean, if we move from ceasefire to the war being obliterated, that's me using Trump's words. Will this package be necessary?
Very necessary, because even if the conflict ends, the economic effect lasts for a long time. You know that sometimes when the war ends in the war field, the impact still resonates for weeks, even months, or sometimes years. And that's why I think we really need this. We need to continue to see how we can support the FX market, to support the manufacturing and the agricultural supply system. And some of these sectors are just very slowly, either negatively or positively to impact. So I think it's a very good buffer that is coming up this time, and it is really needed.
I'd like you to talk to us about the immediate impact we should expect as a result of this ceasefire.
So I don't think there will be any immediate impact. There's going to be a lowering of energy prices, but a crucial thing that is necessary is trust, and that trust has been completely shattered in the manner this war was conducted. So there will be a sort of holding period. The Iranians will approach the discussion with a lot of mistrust, and to quote them, with their hands still on the trigger. The Israelis have already started walking back parts of the ceasefire, in the sense that the announcement by both the US, Iran, and Pakistan was that Lebanon was part of the ceasefire. Israel has come out to say that no, Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. So there's the real risk that the Iran will go back to attacking Israel if Israel continues war in Lebanon, and then the ceasefire ends. So the ceasefire may not even last 2 weeks. I hope it does, and I hope it extends beyond that. But the Iranians, as part of their 10-point demand, want security guarantees. They don't want a ceasefire. They want an end to the war. And whether the Americans will be able to stomach the 10-point demand, because if the Americans accede to all 10 points, it essentially means that from a strategic viewpoint, Iran won the war. So that is the big question. Are the Americans going to be able to stomach that outcome?
All right, so now that you're talking about winning, I'll still come to you, Doctor, but I want to take Mr. Nwanze first on this. Both sides are claiming victory, but who do you think actually won? I mean, someone said Iran won by not losing, and the U.S. lost by not winning. But from a business and geopolitical standpoint now, who actually holds the upper hand?
Okay, since I'm a geopolitical analyst, let's lean towards the geopolitics, and we go back to the first principles of geopolitics and quote Klaus von Clausewitz. War is continuation of politics by other means. So at the end of the day, in any war, you have political ends which you want to achieve. So the question is, who has emerged in a better position based on stated aims at the start of the war? The Americans wanted to end uranium enrichment. They wanted an end to Iranian ballistic program. They wanted regime change in Iran. None of those three has happened. Iran has come out stronger. Before the war, the Strait of Hormuz was not a toll road. Now Iran has the right to say Uwuda when any ship is passing the Strait of Hormuz. So essentially, Iran has won. All
right, Dr. Gbeshola, do you agree with that?
For me, there is no victor. I see that they all have their equal strength. The U.S. and its partner has greater structural influence when it comes to global finance and alliances. Then again, Iran also has control over the Strait of Hormuz, and that gives it enough power, enough bargaining power. So for me, what I would consider as winning is whichever at the end of the day can guarantee us economic stability and bring about cooperation among nations. For me, that outright military success should be based on what we're able to do, or any of the countries are able to do when it comes to stabilizing markets and influencing broader regional cooperation.
All right, thank you so much. Let's close with this now, Mr. Nwanze. We saw Brent crude sink 13% to under $95, and then now that the strait is temporarily open, how quickly can the 11 million barrel shortfall be erased? And does this mean Nigeria's $100 oil revenue windfall is officially over?
In many ways, it never really began. We had legacy things that we needed to fill up. The war would have needed to last for maybe 6 months before we could have started to reap the windfall. Now, one thing that may work in our favor is the fact that a lot of the infrastructure within the Persian Gulf has been destroyed. That will need to be rebuilt. And oil systems that have been taken offline take some time to get back online. So there's a possibility that we'll still reap some benefits from it. But whether that benefit will translate to the broader Nigerian economy remains to be seen.
Thank you so much, Cheta Nwanze, lead partner, SBM Intelligence, and Dr. Femi Gbeshola, President, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts with us on these issues.